The year is 2026, and the global music industry has reached a tipping point. While some predicted a cool down, the data tells a far more aggressive story. Why are the world's biggest Western icons suddenly sounding the alarm? Is the BTS pop era no longer just a wave, but the new standard? Number 8. The Titan's strategic respect, Taylor Swift. While Taylor Swift continues her reign as the undisputed queen of the Billboard 200 with her 2026 masterpiece, The Life of a Showgirl, the return of BTS with their fifth studio album Arirang has forced a monumental shift in the industry's competitive landscape. In March 2026, the data confirmed what many feared. BTS's lead single Swim debuted at No. 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, while the album Arirang simultaneously topped the Billboard 200, making them the first South Korean act to conquer both flagship charts in the same week. This surge wasn't just a flash in the pan. According to Luminate, Arirang moved a staggering 641,000 equivalent album units in its first week, the highest debut for any male artist in the 2020s so far. Swift, who led the 2026 American Music Award nominations with 8 nods, found herself in direct confrontation with the septet in the Artist of the Year category, where BTS's Arirang tour data spanning 80 shows across 34 regions with 2.4 million tickets sold became an impossible metric to ignore. During the early 2026 awards circuit, industry insiders noted that Swift's team had to meticulously calibrate release windows to avoid the BTS Blackout effect that occurs when the group's digital sales, which often see all tracks from an album, entering the Hot 100 at once, monopolize the chart's upper echelons. The rivalry reached its peak at the 52nd AMAs in Las Vegas, where BTS's Swim was nominated for Song of the Summer against Swift's The Fate of Ophelia. For an artist like Swift, who has won more AMAs than anyone in history, the threat isn't just about losing a trophy. It's about the sheer mathematical dominance of a fandom that can claim the entire top 10 of the Billboard Global Exclude US chart in a single week. This is no longer a battle of Western pop versus K-pop. It is a collision of the two most powerful musical ecosystems on the planet, where even a legend like Swift must acknowledge that the BTS return has redefined the ceiling of global success. The numbers don't lie, and the shadow cast by the Bangtan comeback is long enough to cover even the brightest stars in Hollywood. Number 7. The Sonic Architect's ultimate hurdle, The Weeknd. As Abel Tesfaye prepares to retire his The Weeknd persona following the release of his 2026 finale, Hurry Up Tomorrow, he has encountered an unprecedented roadblock in his quest for a clean sweep of the global charts. Despite his After Hours Till Dawn tour breaking records as the highest-grossing tour by a male soloist, the 2026 return of BTS has created a statistical ceiling that even the Blinding Lights hitmaker is struggling to crack. When BTS released their comeback album Arirang on the 20th of March 2026, it didn't just compete. It dismantled the streaming momentum of Tesfaye's lead singles, with the track Swim effectively blocking his path to the top of the Billboard Hot 100 for multiple weeks. The data from Q1 2026 shows that while Tesfaye remains a top 5 most streamed artist of all time on Spotify, the sheer velocity of BTS's Arirang sales, specifically the 208,000 vinyl copies sold in a single week, shattered records for group sales that had stood since 1991. Industry analysts have pointed out a clash of titans in the Billboard Global 200, where BTS became the first K-pop act to hold the No. 1 spot for 3 consecutive weeks in early 2026, a feat that pushed Tesfaye's cinematic synth-pop into the runner-up position. The intensity of this rivalry was further cemented when the 2026 Grammy nominations revealed a massive snub for Tesfaye's Hurry Up Tomorrow in the Big 3 categories, while BTS's global dominance made them undeniable contenders for the same honors. For an artist who has publicly challenged the industry's transparency, the threat posed by BTS is not merely a matter of popularity, but a mathematical reality where their engagement metrics boasting over 13.37 million monthly active users on Weverse dwarf traditional Western promotional cycles. This is the first time in his career that Tesfaye faces a rival that can outpace his digital presence in every major market simultaneously. turning his final chapter as The Weeknd into a high-stakes struggle for chart survival. As the 2026 award season accelerates, the Starboy finds himself navigating a landscape where even his most ambitious work must contend with a group that has turned the entire world into their own private stadium. The era of the solo pop king is being tested by a collective force that shows no signs of slowing down. Number 6. The chart king's unseen ceiling, Drake. Even as the self-proclaimed Sixth God maintains his position as Spotify's third most streamed artist of all time in 2026, the rap titan has found his historical dominance under direct siege by the record-breaking return of BTS. The conflict is no longer just about cultural influence. It is a brutal war of attrition on the Billboard Hot 100, where Drake has long reigned as the artist with the most charted songs in history. However, as of April 2026, BTS's new single Swim from their Arirang album didn't just debut at No. 1. It stayed in the top 25 for 5 consecutive weeks, creating a blocking effect that has stalled Drake's own 2026 releases like Nokia from achieving the same peak. The numbers reveal a shifting power dynamic. While Drake's streaming numbers remain massive, BTS has consistently outpaced him in pure digital sales, a metric that remains the kryptonite for modern rap superstars in the current chart weighting system. According to Luminate data, from Q1 2026, BTS managed to beat both Taylor Swift and Drake to secure the most No. 1 hits of the decade so far, totaling 6 chart toppers, compared to Drake's 5. This statistical rivalry reached a fever pitch during the 2026 American Music Awards nominations, where both acts were pitted against each other for Artist of the Year, a category where BTS's physical sales and social engagement metrics provide a nearly insurmountable lead over Drake's traditional streaming-heavy model. For an artist like Drake, who has historically leveraged his Midas touch to dominate every awards cycle, the 2026 landscape is a sobering reality. For the first time, he is facing a global entity that can not only match his streaming velocity, but can also mobilize a buying power that renders standard Western promotional tactics obsolete. As industry analysts look toward the upcoming Billboard Music Awards, the question isn't whether Drake will chart, but whether he can find any breathing room in a top 10 increasingly occupied by a group that has effectively colonized the summit of global music. The certified lover boy is now looking at a scoreboard where the numbers are being rewritten by a force that doesn't just play the game, but owns the stadium. Number 5. The ethereal prodigy's critical collision, Billie Eilish. In 2026, the landscape of critical acclaim has hit a massive tectonic shift as Billie Eilish, fresh off her history-making Song of the Year win for Wildflower at the 68th Grammy Awards, finds her alternative pop dominance challenged by a force that commands both the charts and the critics. While Eilish has solidified her status as an industry darling now tied with legends like Adele and Bruno Mars for the most wins in the Big Four Grammy categories, the March 2026 release of BTS's Arirang has introduced a rival that Eilish's team cannot ignore. The data reveals a direct clash at the 2026 American Music Awards, where Eilish's Wildflower and BTS's Swim are locked in a high-stakes battle for Song of the Summer. For Eilish, who has spent the last year touring the globe with her Hit Me Hard and Soft World Tour and preparing for the May 2026 theatrical release of her 3D concert film, the BTS effect is a statistical reality. Despite her universal acclaim, BTS managed to secure 3 weeks at No. 1 on the Billboard 200 with Arirang, moving 641,000 units in a single week and effectively dampening the long-term chart momentum of every other major release in Q1. Luminate reports indicate that while Eilish remains a top 10 most streamed artist globally, BTS's return saw them reclaiming the title of the world's most sold artist in terms of pure physical and digital sales, a metric that Eilish, despite her massive Gen Z following, struggles to match in volume. This isn't just about popularity. It's a battle for the soul of the 2026 awards season, where Eilish's introspective, minimalist artistry is being measured against the maximalist, global-scale mobilization of a group that has transformed the industry into a digital stadium. As the AMA's voting window closes on May 8th, Eilish finds herself in the unusual position of being the underdog in fan-voted categories against a septet that has proven they can mobilize millions of votes in a matter of hours. The bad guy of pop is now facing a rival that doesn't just break the rules, but creates an entirely new game where the stakes are higher than ever before. Even for a 7-time General Field winner, the sheer velocity of the BTS comeback is a haunting reminder that in 2026, no throne is truly safe. Number 4. The Vocal Architects Chart Conflict, Ariana Grande. In May 2026, Ariana Grande found herself at a historic crossroads as she balanced the massive success of her 7th studio album Eternal Sunshine and its deluxe expansion Brighter Days Ahead with the announcement of her brand new July 31 project, Pedal. While Grande has officially reigned as one of the most dominant forces on the Billboard Global 200 Exclade US, with 3 No. 1 singles. The sudden return of BTS in March 2026 with their 4-track masterpiece Arirang created a statistical wall that halted her momentum. The data is stark. On the week of the 4th of April, 2026, BTS achieved something only Taylor Swift had previously mastered, occupying 9 out of the top 10 spots on the Billboard Hot 100 simultaneously. This Bangtan sweep effectively pushed Grande's charting singles into the lower tiers of the top 20, just as she was kicking off the North American leg of her The Eternal Sunshine tour in June 2026. For an artist who executive produced and co-wrote Pedal with Ilya to reflect life growing through the cracks, the competition has never been more literal. BTS's Swim alone secured 18.4 million global viewers for its Netflix-streamed live debut, a reach that creates a vacuum in the digital attention economy. Industry reports from Luminate highlight that while Grande's Eternal Sunshine residency at London's The O2 sold out 10 nights instantly, the BTS Arirang World Tour, spanning 85 dates in 34 cities, has set a new 360-degree in-the-round stadium standard that has every major Western pop star's management re-evaluating their 2026 tour logistics. Grande, who admitted to Amy Poehler that this might be her last tour for a long while, now faces an awards landscape where BTS's Arirang is not just a competitor, but a mathematical anomaly that dominates the Song of the Summer conversation before summer has even fully arrived. The dangerous woman is realizing that in a 2026 market, her most meticulously crafted vocal performances are up against a global mobilization that can return a 4-year-old song like Run BTS to the #1 spot on a whim. This is the ultimate test of staying power, in an era where the throne is being reclaimed by those who never truly left. Number 3. The pop prodigy's nostalgic gauntlet, Justin Bieber. In the spring of 2026, Justin Bieber orchestrated one of the most high-profile comebacks in recent memory, leveraging a viral Biebercella headlining set at Coachella to revitalize his chart presence. While his 2025 album Swag surged back into the Billboard 200 Top 10, climbing from No. 55 to No. 7 inches a single week. His path to undisputed dominance has been blocked by the sheer industrial force of BTS. On the 4th of April 2026, Billboard Hot 100 chart, Bieber's new single Yukon faced a direct assault from BTS's Swim, which debuted at No. 1 and successfully locked Bieber out of the summit. The rivalry intensified when Bieber's classic 2012 hit Beauty and a Beat saw a 93% surge in global streams following his Coachella performance, briefly dethroning Swim on the Spotify Global Top 50. However, this victory was short-lived, as BTS's physical sales data recording 4.17 million copies sold in the first week of Arirang created a point gap that Bieber's streaming-heavy numbers could not bridge. According to Hantio Chart, BTS achieved million-seller status within just 10 minutes of their 2026 launch, a velocity that makes even a global titan like Bieber appear to be playing catch-up. Industry reports highlight that Bieber's Coachella set, while the most viewed in the festival's history with 64.9 million views in 12 hours, had to compete for social media oxygen against BTS's massive Gwangwaman comeback concert and their subsequent The Tonight Show takeover. For Bieber, who has spent 17 years at the top, the 2026 landscape presents a unique threat, a rival that possesses both the nostalgic fever of his early years and a modernized, ultra-efficient digital mobilization that can reclaim the no. 1 spot on the global Exclam US chart almost at will. As Bieber prepares for the May 16 chart battle with his track Yukon, the mathematical reality is daunting. He isn't just fighting a group. He's fighting a global infrastructure that has turned the 2026 award season into a defensive game for every Western artist involved. The king of pop is finding that in this new era, the crown is heavier than ever when the challengers don't just break records, but shatter the entire scoring system. This head-to-head collision is forcing a re-evaluation of what pop royalty means when the most loyal subjects in the world have already chosen a different throne. Number 2. The streaming titans Latin lockdown, Bad Bunny. In the high-stakes arena of 2026, Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio, the global face of reggaeton, has encountered a statistical adversary that operates on a level of mobilization he has never seen. While Bad Bunny entered the final week of April 2026, leading the Luminate worldwide streaming race by 45.6 million plays, the BTS effect began to systematically dismantle his chart armor. On the 30th of April 2026, the data confirmed a brutal reality. Despite Bad Bunny's 349.2 million streams across platforms, BTS's Arirang maintained such a high velocity of pure sales that the Billboard Global 200 became a deadlock. The rivalry turned into a literal market on Kalshi, with bettors wagering on whether Bad Bunny could outstream the K-pop septet during the April 24-30 tracking week. The pressure is visible in the nominations for the 2026 American Music Awards, where both titans are finalists for Artist of the Year. For Bad Bunny, who has historically utilized Spotify dominance to secure his throne, the threat from BTS is uniquely terrifying because it hits his blind spot physical sales. While Benito's 2026 singles rely heavily on high repeat streaming, BTS's Swim logged a massive 154,000 units in US sales alone in its debut week, creating a points buffer that even the world's most streamed solo artists struggled to overcome. Industry insiders noted that as BTS kicked off their North American tour in Tampa, drawing 190,000 fans in a single weekend, the sheer economic footprint of their return began to overshadow the Latin trap movement's traditional strongholds. This is a clash between the king of the playlist and the masters of the fandom, where Bad Bunny, a man who once felt untouchable in the digital space, is now watching his records being methodically erased by a group that has turned the world's charts into their own private scoreboard. The Conejo Malo is realizing that in 2026, being the most streamed human on Earth might not be enough to stop a 7-man army that can move millions of physical copies in minutes. As the 2026 award season heats up, the battle for the top spot is no longer a conversation about genre. It's a war of numbers, where the only thing more dangerous than a global hit is a global movement. The king of the streaming era is now facing the ultimate final boss. Number 1. The Empress's Final Act, Beyonce. In May 2026, the music world is holding its breath as Beyonce reportedly prepares to unveil Act 3, the rock-inspired finale to her legendary trilogy. But she faces a competitive reality unlike any in her 30-year career. While Beyonce remains the most decorated artist in Grammy history, the 2026 landscape is being defined by a statistical collision with BTS that has rewritten the rules of event releases. When BTS dropped Arirang in March 2026, they didn't just top the charts. They set a 4-year record by holding the No. 1 spot on the Billboard 200 for 3 consecutive weeks, a feat not achieved by any group since 2012. This sustained dominance has created a gravity well in the industry, as Beyoncé's team began clearing her official website and teasing a collaboration with Stevie Nicks on the 30th of April 2026. Industry analysts noted that BTS's Swim was still logging 124,000 units in its 3rd week, maintaining a vice grip on the digital summit. The rivalry is most visible in the 2026 American Music Awards nominations, where Beyoncé's Cowboy Carter legacy and her upcoming Act 3 momentum are being measured against a BTS comeback that moved 532,000 pure album copies in its first week alone. For the Queen Bey, the threat isn't a lack of talent or prestige, but a shift in the global apparatus. BTS has become the first act in history to mobilize a 360-degree market dominance, where their Netflix documentary BTS The Return and their 8-5-date Arirang World Tour, which drew 190,000 fans in Tampa alone, have created a cultural monopoly that even a rock revival by Beyonce must fight to penetrate. According to Luminate, BTS's return saw them outselling the next 5 highest-charting artists combined in physical media, a metric that serves as the ultimate firewall against the streaming-heavy cycles of Western icons. As the Beyhive braces for the release of Act 3, they are entering a chart environment where the Artist of the Year crown is no longer a guaranteed coronation, but a brutal mathematical battle against a septet that has turned 2026 into a year of total Bangtan hegemony. The throne of pop royalty is being challenged by a global republic that doesn't just bow to icons, but builds its own empire. This is the final showdown where the legend of the past meets the undisputed powerhouse of the future.